Alright, YouTube, it's the Shadow King, King Nazru, here with a review of Rosario Vampire, Chapter 29. We start the chapter off with Skune arriving at the headquarters of the student committee, and for those who don't know, or didn't catch my last two chapter reviews, Skune is being used as the scapegoat by the headmaster, which is the exorcist, in order to lead out the anarchist group, the Antithesis, and if he refuses to cooperate, he's going to be expelled. So, and Skune is contemplating all of this, and when he arrives at the headquarters, he realizes that it looks like a haunted house, and is freaked out by this. Though at this point, I find it kind of odd that this doesn't seem mundane to him, since he goes to a school full of monsters. And even though he's still technically human, he has been more or less transformed at times to a vampire. But whatever. Then he's suddenly approached by the student committee leader, who appears off as a tall person, and just from appearance he seems tall, well-rounded, and very intelligent. And he seems very kind, since he tries to comfort Skune's and allay his fears. Then we cut back to the newspaper club, and Mocha explains the situation to everybody, that if Skune doesn't go along with the Exorcist's plan, he'll get expelled. And while this is going, she's also wondering how Skune is starting to change due to the fact that the Holy Lock that's supposed to prevent him from turning into a ghoul or a vampire is not working as much, since he's still able to transform despite the Holy Lock on. So she's wondering if there's some kind of other thing going on. However, Kurumu doesn't want to go with his plan because it's too dangerous, and she doesn't like how the Exorcist is manipulating Skune. So she tries to head to his office and tries to talk him into letting Skune off the hook. However, at the hall, Ruby Tojo is overhearing this, and she tells Kurumu not to interfere. And everybody's excited that Ruby's there. And Ruby explains that she is working for the headmaster, but she has something to tell them, that Skune might in fact actually be in danger, which would kind of contradict her point of them not interfering, so what the hell. Anyway, she explains that there is possibly a mole within the student committee club, which I find to be an interesting element, since it would add a bit of tension and suspicion in the story, but I felt that should have been reserved for the middle part of the story, because we didn't even get to meet the rest of the student committee. And if they established them as nice and well-mannered as the leader, then we would have started to be more involved in this and trying to figure out which one can't we trust. But let's continue. We head back into the student committee, and Skune's looking at all the members, and he comes to the realization that Hokuto is the only normal-looking person there, because some of them look like big thugs. Some of them look very weird. One of them looks like Lon Chaney's version of the Phantom of the Opera. But he tries to adjust to it. Then one of the student members says that, mentions how the leader, whose name is Hokuto Kaneshiro, is a great leader, because he has leadership skills, very intelligent, well-rounded, and is in fact a good martial artist too. And when you hear Kanashiro's speech about how he wants the school festival to be a success, and that he's aware about the Antithesis group and they have to prevent them from trying to ruin everything. So let's hold on a thought. The leader of the student committee is intelligent, very good at martial arts, very charismatic, and wants world peace, and has an obsessive uh, method to trying to get rid of any possible threats. Villain. He's the villain. I'm calling it right now. He's the villain. So anyway, uh, the it turns out that Skinny is actually quite liking Hokuto Kaneshiro, which seems natural based on what he knows so far, and it's actually starting to become more comfortable around the student committee. And we come back to the newspaper club, and it turns out that Mizure, naturally as a stalker, was listening to this the whole time. And she also is not thrilled about Skinny being involved in such a dangerous situation, so she tries to go off and rescue him. And Kurumi decides to go along too. Then when we cut back to the student committee, the guy who was talking to Tsukune is named Mizuki Ueshiba, and he says that he's glad that he likes Hokuto Kaneshiro and the student committee. But he also tells him that there is in fact, a spy in there. And this suddenly shocks Tsukune because he was completely unaware about this. And Mizuki wants to know if he is the spy, and Tsukune says no, because I never knew about this. And they said we should probably talk more about this, but not in public. So they try to head off somewhere. And it's kind of funny that Kurumu and Mizure were this close to finding them. Now, when Tsukune and Mizuki are alone, Tsukune says that he didn't know anything about this. All he knew was about attending the safety, not the safety, the student committee, and making sure the festival is a success, and the antithesis group does nothing to ruin it. And he's also wondering, why didn't the exorcist tell me about this? Is this another one of his schemes? So Mizuki says he's glad that Tsukune was not the mole. And he says that even if Antithesis is infiltrating their groups, Tsukune could probably handle them just like he did before. And Tsukune's like, what? How do you know about this? I never told anyone about that. And Mizuki realizes he's been busted, and it turns out that he is in fact the mole. So, and speaking of moles, he decides to dig underground and tries to ambush Tsukune, but not as a mole, but as a Cobra Man. I originally thought that Mizuki was some kind of worm monster thing because he looked elongated with his body, and it looked more like a worm. But then I realized the T shape on his neck, which resembles more of a cobra. Though I don't recall cobras going underground. If I'm wrong about that, let me know, because my knowledge of snakes is very limited. So anyway, Mizuki explains that he was hired to infiltrate and gain info about the student committee and the school in general, and he was also going to kill Tsukune, but at a much later time. But because Tsukune knows too much, he forced his hand, and he decides to drag Tsukune into the ground where he can kill him off. Then Mizure and Kurumu arrive and see Tsukune's blood trails and wonder what happened to Tsukune. But Mizuki manages to ambush both of them and tries to kill them as well. But fortunately for them, Tsukune turns into vampire mode with the holy log still on. So, well, this is proving a bit more ineffectual, or at least that's what the manga's telling us so far. And Tsukune manages to easily beat up Mizuki, and even at one point it looked like he was trying to choke him, no less. And after the fight, Skune exhausts himself and needs medical attention. And when the medical team arrives, Hokuto Kaneshiro arrives and apologizes to Skune for not knowing about this. And he really wants to establish peace within the school. Skune agrees for that and wishes to collaborate with him to make peace at the school. And Hokuto Kaneshiro says, yes, we'll work together to change the school. And that that was the end of that part. But we see that Hokuto is walking at the school campus, and who else to meet up with him than Kiria of Antithesis? Called it! I told you that guy was a villain. And not only is Hokuto a villain, but he is also acknowledged by Kiria to be the leader of Antithesis. And Hokuto tells Kiria that despite what he was saying earlier, his promise to Skune is not an empty promise, before he is going to change the school, but not lead towards the path of peace, but to the path of destruction. Yes, 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 finally we are getting some real villains. After dealing with some villains who could be best described as cannon fodder or mere lackeys just to tide us over, we're finally building up to a villain who's actually going to be intimidating and threatening. And above all, he's intelligent, can fight well, based on what we're building him up to be. And we don't. Also, Skune's powers are acting a bit sporadically, and he's having less involvement with his friends. And with all these things building up, you know what that means. Shit is getting real. So next chapter, we'll see just how far that goes.